So my name is David Pattemore and just completed my PhD thesis at Princeton University in the United States. The purpose of my research was initially to figure out how important were birds and bats as pollinators of New Zealand native species, and then to look at the consequences of the local extinction of those native species for pollination in New Zealand. So the overall design of the project was that I was comparing pollination on Little Barrier Island to sites on the North Island mainland around the Auckland region. And the reason I used Little Barrier Island is that it's the only site left in the country that still has natural self-sufficient populations of all the native bird and bat pollinators. So for this study we're focusing on 3 plant species: Puhutukawa, which everyone knows is a coastal tree in the north of New Zealand, Rewa Rewa, which is a tree that has big showy red flowers and it grows in the middle of forest, and a hebe species that grows in the understory of New Zealand forests. Well, first of all, on Little Barrier, the most dramatic result that we found was that the short-tailed bat, which is a threatened, one of New Zealand's 2 bat species, it's a threatened species, we found the short-tailed bat was visiting a much wider variety of flowers much more frequently than anyone had previously thought. And we found that then when we prevented the bats, we prevented birds from visiting these flowers, that for the 3 plant species I studied, we saw a significant decline in pollination. So this showed that native birds and bats were very important pollinators for these 3 species. And then when we looked at these same 3 species on mainland sites, on North Island sites, we found when we caged the flowers to prevent birds and other animals from visiting the flowers, we got the same pattern of a significant reduction in pollination. And when we looked at the video footage, that's where we found that in fact it was the invasive shiprat, an introduced species, and also the silvereye, which has recently established here in New Zealand, that were doing the majority of pollination for these plant species. There's a few really important implications of this research. The first one is that we've shown that short-tailed bats are very important pollinators in New Zealand forests. And I think that has probably been overlooked, and their importance has been underestimated until now. And now we can really see that they play a crucial role in New Zealand forests. But we also see that in the absence of these native species, pollination has still been maintained to a large degree. And that's because there is still nectar in these flowers, animals are still visiting the flowers, and those animals, the shiprat and the silvereye, are moving pollen around. So this means that when we're actually doing rat control programs or rat eradication programs, we do need to think through the consequences of removing those pollinators from the forests. And I think what this research really shows is that if we're doing rat control eradication programs, we need to be reintroducing short-tailed bats as a priority.